Hey guys, Eric here, and this is episode number 3. I'm not gonna keep doing that. This is the Best of 2012, the web edition, which, once again, my fantastic book of Doom. Fantastic Book of Doom? Yeah, we'll go with that. Anyway, for those that didn't watch the previous episode, I am talking for 3 episodes about what my favorite stuff was in 2012. As I used to do these awards called the Wild of Comics Awards, in which I did this every year, but I would write it. So instead of writing it this year, I figured I'd do it as videos, because I'm still getting used to this whole video vlogging thing. There we go. I almost said blogging, but I'm like, no, it's called vlogging. I'm just doing it a little differently than most people do. Anyways, let's jump right into the list. We are actually starting with Best Podcasts, in which I have 2 for you. First one is the Thrilling Adventure Hour. For those that don't know, the Thrilling Adventure Hour is old time radio in new time. Crap. Basically, it's awesome radio. Well, radio-like adventures. They're fantastic stuff. Really funny, creative. Ben Blacker and Ben Acker are very intelligent and funny writers whose work I'd highly recommend. Definitely check out Drones. It's a very fun movie on Netflix. That's basically Clerks, not Clerks. That's Office Space with an aliens twist, which is really fun stuff. But they do this podcast, which is called The Thrilling Adventure Hour, where they have different characters, 3 main stories. One is about the socialites who get drunk all the time, who can see ghosts. Another one is Sparks Nevada, Marshall on Mars, who is just plain awesome, and it's really funny stuff. And then there's Captain Laserbeam, voiced by John DiMaggio, and it's really, really original and fun stuff that I'd highly recommend you guys check out. Like I said, it's called The Thrilling Adventure Hour, and I will throw it in the show notes underneath. And then the other podcast is actually Cox and Crandor in the Morning. Jesse Cox and Wow Crandor of YouTube fame decided to do their own half-hour morning talk show, pretty much, and they're just some most bizarre stuff at moments. With if you know Jesse or Crandor's comedy stylings, if you've ever seen either of their videos before, they're really funny guys who do a lot of gameplay stuff, and yeah, it's a fun, funny podcast that I enjoy listening to. And like I said, it's only each episode, similar to the Thrilling Adventure Hour, is usually about like almost a half hour long at most. And it's a really easy listen, and before you know it, the episode will be over, and you'll be like, why isn't the next episode out now? But yeah, those are my 2 best podcasts of 2012, and we move on to Web Series of the Year. And I gave Web Series of the Year to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different web series, because there are a lot of web series out there. A lot of them are on YouTube. But the first one I am giving it to is Video Game High School. And for those that don't know, Video Game High School is done by the fantastic Freddie Wong and his production team. Freddie Wong is a YouTuber, longtime YouTuber, who does a lot of video game based stuff. And Video Game High School is a very fun and awesome thing. And Season 2 is one of my most anticipated, because Season 2 they are shooting right now as we speak, which I'm very excited to see what they do with Season 2. And the cast is fun and awesome. Like, it has everyone from Zach Levi of Chuck to Harley Morenstein from Epic Mealtime. And I think I just screwed up Harley's last name, but it's awesome stuff. And like I said, link in the show notes. Everything that I mentioned is in the show notes. Second one is Job Hunters, Job Hunters is extremely unique. It's kind of like the Hunger Games, and yeah, it's similar to the Hunger Games, and it's basically about 20-somethings that have to live in this place and basically kill other people for jobs, to get attention, to be able to go off and do jobs or get jobs. And it's really cool. The writing is smart and funny, similar to Video Game High School and everything else I mentioned, and it's a really interesting, unique as both in acting and writing and performances. It's just really cool stuff, and I'd highly recommend checking it out. The first season was 6 episodes long, and they did a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff too. Third show is actually Husbands. I've had Jane Espenson and Brad Bell on the show to talk about Husbands, since they did a Dark Horse miniseries that was mostly that was on the web first, which will be collected in hardcover soon. But it's about these. Well, it's about this couple who are very famous. One of them's kind of the socialite. The other one is a baseball star, and they get married one night in a drunken haze, and they decide to stay together and work it out. And it's really funny. And Joss Whedon plays the agent of one of the stars, and it's funny, it's clever, just like everything else that I'm mentioning. And I keep saying funny and clever. And I'd highly recommend checking it out, because it's a favorite of mine. Season 2 is really good stuff. It's only 3 episodes, but it's still really funny stuff. And then we move on to Bite Me, which I'm not sure if it's coming back for a 3rd season. Bite Me is basically a show. It's a zombie show, but it's a zombie show where these three guys, during the zombie invasion, they're all gamers, and they decide they're going to make a difference by showing people how they can stand up for themselves and fight off the zombies and the hordes. And it's awesome. The effects are awesome. The acting is great, and it's just some funny stuff. And like I said, everything will be in the links below, and that one I definitely highly recommend, because it has just like a lot of the stuff on the list. It has Hollywood like special effects in it. It's surprising how well they were able to pull it off. It was on Machinima too, so it's not really too surprising that they were able to do that. The second to last one on my list is actually Geekgasm, and Geekgasm is hosted by Jenny, who is a very big geek nerd who is very beautiful as well, and she's very funny, goes on rants about any and all things nerdy or geeky, has basically has something heavy against Michael Bay for good reasons, and she's awesome, and her show is very funny, and I'd highly recommend anyone check it out if they haven't already. And then the last thing on my list is Harry Knowles actually started a show on the Nerdist Network called Ain't It Cool. And Ain't It Cool is just like the website, where he talks about everything he loves. And I actually share some of the stuff he loves in common. And he kind of gives you this really cool and interesting tour through some like classic sci-fi and other genres, sci-fi, horror, dramas, a whole bunch of different things that he gives you all these crazy tours through. And it's almost like a history lesson, but kind of not, because it doesn't feel like you're learning. It feels like you're just watching something really fun. It's kind of like Pee-wee's Playground with some of the way he interacts with stuff, and it's cool. You can tell he has a love of these things, and that's what makes the show as appealing as what I think it does. Is you can see his love as he tries to tell you about all these things that he finds cool and fascinating. And he does talk about some stuff that's been coming out the last couple years, and even shows you some really cool like collectibles, like rare stuff that you never would have seen before. We move on to actually Best Live Show, and Best Live Show is actually something that finds its way on YouTube a day after they put it up. But talking about video games, awesome. And these guys it's a team of Canadians, and it's hosted by Fraser Agar and his very awesome girlfriend Becky, who does these fantastic costumes, and then their friend Ben, and those are the 3 most common members of the team. And it's awesome stuff, because whether it be like games that you haven't played or you have played, and you get to see other people's reaction to those, or like some of the AAA titles that maybe you're not interested in, but this will make you want to play those because it's just fun to watch Fraser's reactions to them as a Frage, as the Frage. I can talk. But yeah, it's a fun show. Like I said, every episode usually ends up on YouTube after in different sections, and they have playlists that you can watch. And I watch it all the time when I'm bored because it can give you hours of entertainment. And I've even discovered some games through them that I maybe wouldn't have given a shot before without them. But that's the best live show. Best documentary, and this one is connected to the web because I wouldn't have found out about it unless some people that I know told me about it, and that is Indie Game the Movie. And Indie Game the Movie is this amazing documentary that follows the creators of he did create The Binding of Isaac, now that I'm mentioning it, but we'll get into the video game stuff on the next episode. But Super Meat Boy, Braid, and Fez. Those are the three main creators. Like, they also followed through a whole bunch of other game developers, but focused on just these three. And it's interesting to see what happened during the whole process, and you get to see the journey they go through, what happened with Xbox Live, with Super Meat Boy, which Edmund has actually talked about on the podcast, Edmund McMillan, and it's really cool to see, and it's a very awesome documentary. I'd highly recommend getting either their version from their website or the Steam version of the movie, because those two have the commentary track by Edmund and Tommy of Team Meat, and it's probably one of the best commentary tracks I've ever heard in my life, because it's really funny, and it's just the two of them shooting the shit, and it's the funniest thing imaginable, of them making fun of themselves through the whole documentary. And it's a really awesome documentary that I'd highly recommend. It's also on Netflix, but the Netflix doesn't have that commentary. That's why I'm hesitant to recommend the Netflix version of it. But it is an amazing documentary, and it's inspired me. After watching it, I was heavily inspired by it. So, and then we actually move on to best gaming coverage, which is, first I'll mention Josh Mattingly and Indie Static. He now has the Indie Static website, which they're very slowly updating, but right now it's sort of like a vlog. But he also has his own YouTube channel. And without Josh, I wouldn't know about a third of the cool indie games that I play. And Josh is the nicest guy on the planet. I've talked to him at length on the show, and he's awesome. And Indie Static is something I highly recommend, especially if, say, like, you have just a regular computer, or like interested in indie games or any of that. He is fully immersed in that and can recommend any of the cool stuff that you can imagine. And it's a really cool network and website that I'd highly recommend. And then we have Adam Sessler, for those that don't know, left G4 last year, or the year before that now. He's been gone a while. He left X-Play, and I was bummed, even though I haven't watched the network in a while. So Adam leaving wasn't that effective, because Adam was the best thing about that. So, but since I wasn't watching it, was like, I hope Adam finds somewhere cool, and he did with Rev Games. And Adam he brought his charm and funniness to Rev Games on YouTube. And if you're curious at all, or have, ever watched X-Play or were a fan of Adam's, I'd highly recommend checking out Rev Games, because he is exactly what game journalism should be, just like Josh is. Josh and him are both, and Angry Joe. Angry Joe is actually the other one for my best gaming coverage, because all three of these that I'm mentioning are the best gaming coverage in my opinion. Adam Sessler, I will always trust his opinion on everything, even if I don't agree with everything he says. Josh's opinion, like I said, I've played many indie games thanks to Josh. And Angry Joe has possibly 3 or 4 of the best videos of just like talking about why Mass Effect fans were as upset as they were with what happened with the very end of the game, and it's really cool to see gaming journalism. I mean, even if I'm still very slowly getting into gaming journalism, this is the best of gaming journalism easily, and I would definitely couldn't recommend it any higher than I already do. And then we move on to, since we were just talking about best gaming coverage and best gaming journalism, we now talk about best. I keep moving a lot. Sorry. We're talking about best innovation, and what I mean by innovation is stuff that we've never seen before, web content that is truly original in changing how media works. And the first one is Tabletop, Will Wheaton's show on Geek and Sundry, which is absolutely fantastic and makes me want to play plenty of the board games that they play on the show. And it's awesome stuff, and couldn't recommend it any higher than I already do. And also on this list, because there's only 2 on this list, so it's Tabletop and then it's this, which is My Music, which is an interactive sitcom YouTube show that you can tweet at the characters, you can Facebook the characters, you can leave comments and they respond to the comments. It's a live show. There's each Sunday they would put up an episode of the sitcom, which would then be put together at the end of the arc as like a 30-minute, kind of a little over 30 minutes, and they'd put in extra scenes as well. And it was basically, you'd follow characters named Indie and Scene and Idol and Metal, and they were all different music genres. And it's just, you had guests like Felicia Day and whole bunch of other people, and it's really original, really fun stuff for the most part. There is some cliche stuff, but it's there intentionally, and it's awesome, and I couldn't recommend it any higher. And we talk about next underrated or completely missed, which is sadly over now, but WWE's Are You Serious, which was hosted by the Road Dogg and Josh Matthews, and it was very funny, similar to Botchamania, where the two of them would just sit there and make fun of the worst moments in professional wrestling ever. Mostly WCW stuff, surprisingly, and by surprisingly I mean not surprisingly at all. And then to end the show, we will talk about my most anticipated of 2013, which is, like I said, Video Game High School second season, which is going to be so good, especially with the bigger budget, because they do have a bigger budget now, and I'm sure they've reached their Kickstarter goal now. In fact, I'll put the Kickstarter in the show notes, because I don't think it's over yet. Nuka Break Season 2, for those that don't know, Nuka Break is based on Fallout New Vegas, and so good. First season aired very early 2000, no, yeah, very late 2010, early 2011, and they're working on season 2 right now, and it was really awesome stuff. Shelf Life returns for a new season, and Shelf Life is Tara Platt and Yuri Lowenthal's awesome and funny show about action figures on a shelf that pretty much have to deal with each other from day to day, and the stuff they have to deal with. It's really funny stuff. And then Super Knocked Up Season 2 actually starts at the end of February, and that is by my new friend, my new good friends. I can talk. Quiet brain. Give me a second. Jeff Burns and his amazing cast. Obviously Jordan and Mark, who are the leads, and it's really funny stuff, the first season, and I've had the pleasure of talking with them several times, and they've become friends, and they're just really cool people, so I'm really looking forward to seeing what they did with Season 2, and it's going to be a fun time, so I can't wait to see exactly what they did. Alright, that's it for this episode, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I am going to stop yammering on, and I will see you on the next one when I talk about the best games of 2012.